The glass slips from his hand, and time breaks with it. The sound of crystal hitting marble echoes through the ballroom like a gunshot, sharp and final, and every laugh, every whisper, every soft note from the string quartet dies in its tracks. 100 faces turn toward the billionaire, expecting anger, expecting power, expecting the usual show of control. But he isn't looking at them. He isn't even blinking. His eyes are locked on the black maid standing near the doorway, her back straight, her hands trembling around a silver tray that suddenly feels too heavy for her arms. The light from the chandeliers catches on something small and simple on her finger, and in that tiny circle of dull metal, his entire world tilts and begins to fall. His breath stutters in his chest. In, out. In, out. The room blurs at the edges. The ring isn't expensive. It isn't shiny. It isn't meant for rooms like this, with silk dresses and polished shoes, and laughter that costs more than some people's homes. But he knows it. He knows every scratch, every bend in the metal. He knows it like he knows the scar on his own skin, like he knows the sound of his own name whispered in the dark. That ring isn't just jewelry. It's a ghost, a memory that never learned how to die. The maid shifts her weight, confused by the sudden silence. Her name badge reads Amara, but no one in this room has ever said it out loud. To them, she is just part of the walls, part of the floors, part of the quiet. She lowers her eyes the way she has learned to do, the way the world has taught her to do, and waits for someone to tell her what she's done wrong. The tray shakes in her hands. A drop of water from a melting ice cube slides across the silver surface and falls to the floor, the softest sound in a room full of hell breath. The billionaire takes a step forward without meaning to. His shoes are worth more than the entire uniform she's wearing, but he doesn't feel them. He doesn't feel the marble under his feet or the weight of the tailored suit on his shoulders. All he feels is a pull of the past that is dragging him backward, away from the lights, away from the power, away from the man he built himself into. His mind cracks open, and the ballroom fades into rain. The rain is cold. It hits his face in hard drops that sting his skin and soak through the thin fabric of his shirt. He is a boy again. Thin. Hungry. His shoes are ripped, the soles flapping against wet pavement as he runs, chasing the smell of food down a street that doesn't care if he lives or disappears. He hasn't eaten since yesterday. Maybe the day before. Time is strange when your stomach is empty. He doesn't remember how long it's been. He only knows the ache inside him, the hollow place that feels bigger than his whole body. He ends up at a bus stop, a metal bench slick with rain and cold to the touch. He curls up on it, pulling his knees to his chest, trying to make himself small enough to fit into the night. Cars rush past, their lights blurring into long, bright lines that vanish as fast as they appear. People walk by with umbrellas and coats and bags full of things he can't imagine owning. No one looks at him. No one stops. The rain keeps falling like the sky is trying to wash him away. Then there is a shadow in front of him. A voice, soft but steady. Hey! He looks up, blinking water out his eyes, and sees a girl about his age. Her clothes are worn. Her shoes are old. But she's standing tall, like the world hasn't taught her to bend yet. She holds a small paper bag in her hands, the top folded over, the smell of bread drifting out into the cold air. She sits down next to him without asking. The bench creaks under their combined weight. She opens the bag and breaks the bread in half, the sound of it tearing loud in the quiet night. She holds one piece out to him. He hesitates, pride and hunger fighting in his chest. Hunger wins. He takes it with shaking hands and eats like the food might disappear if he doesn't move fast enough. What's your name? She asks. Daniel, he says, his mouth still full. I'm Amara, she says, and smiles like the rain doesn't exist. They sit there, two kids under a broken sky, sharing a meal that isn't enough but feels like everything. He tells her he doesn't have a home. She tells him she works after school to help her family. He tells her he wants to be rich one day, so rich that no one can ever make him feel small again. She laughs, not in a mean way, but in a way that sounds like hope. One day, he says, the words bold and wild and too big for a boy who doesn't even have a bed. When I'm rich, I'll come back and marry you. The rain swallows his promise. The wind carries it away. But she looks at him like she's going to keep it safe anyway. She pulls a small, Simple ring off her finger, the metal bent and scratched, and presses it into his hand. "So you don't forget me," she says. He closes his fingers around it, feeling the cold of the metal, the warmth of her hand, the weight of a future he can't see yet. Then a bus pulls up. She stands. She waves. She disappears into the night, and he is alone again, holding a promise in his palm. The memory shatters like the glass on a marble floor, and he is back in the ballroom, back in the light, back in the life he built on deals and power and silence. The ring is on her finger now. Not his. Hers. The past has found its way back to him, and it is standing in front of him in a uniform, holding a tray, waiting for a command. Whispers ripple through the guests like a nervous wind. What's happening? Did he drop it on purpose? Who is she? Security shifts closer to the maid, their hands near their radios, their eyes sharp. Amara feels the weight of their stares, even with her head down. Her heart beats faster. She doesn't know why the room has turned against her, but she knows what it feels like when it does. The billionaire opens his mouth to speak. No sound comes out. His throat is tight. His chest feels too small for his lungs. He takes another step forward, and this time, everyone notices. The richest man in the room, maybe in the city, walking toward a maid like she's the only person who exists. Amara finally looks up. Their eyes meet. For a moment, there is no ballroom, no guests, no power, just a boy and a girl, standing under a sky that never stops raining, holding a promise that has waited decades to be seen. Her eyes widen, not with recognition, but with fear. She doesn't see a hungry boy. She sees a billionaire walking toward her, and she doesn't know why. He stops a few feet away, close enough to see the tiny scratch on the ring, the one he made when he dropped on the sidewalk all those years ago. Close enough to see the strength in her face, the tired lines around her eyes, the dignity in the way she holds herself even when the room feels like it's closing in. The air between them is thick, heavy, full of things unsaid. The guests hold their breath. The music doesn't start again. The broken glass lies on the floor untouched, like a warning. And in that silence, with a promise hanging between a billionaire and a maid, the world waits to see which one of them will speak first. The morning light creeps into the mansion like it doesn't belong there. It slips through tall windows, touches the marble floors, and fades under the weight of polished walls and silent halls. The billionaire stands at the top of the staircase with a cup of coffee he hasn't tasted, watching the house wake up. Staff move like shadows, quiet and careful, trained not to be noticed. And there she is, Amara, bent over a bucket of water, her sleeves rolled up, her hands red from soap and cold. She scrubs a floor where men in expensive shoes walked the night before, where laughter spilled and promises were broken. The ring is still on her finger. Small, worn, brave enough to exist in a place like this. He follows her with his eyes as she moves from room to room. She bows her head when someone passes. She steps aside when someone more important walks through. Her name badge catches a light for just a second. Amara, he says in his head, slow and careful, like he's afraid it might disappear if he doesn't hold on to it. The staff talk over her, around her, through her. They hand her empty glasses without looking at her face. They leave dirty plates on tables she hasn't reached yet. She is present, invisible, replaceable. He feels the weight of every step he takes toward her, even when he doesn't move. The house feels smaller than it did yesterday. The walls feel closer. His power, his money, his name, all of it feels loud in his ears, like a drum beating against his chest. He remembers the boy he was, standing in the rain, and the girl who sat next to him like he mattered. And now he is standing in a palace, watching her clean up after people who don't even know her name. The kitchen smells like bread and coffee, and something warm he can't place. It's loud with clinking plates and low voices. He walks in, and the room shifts. Conversations dip. Someone straightens their back. Someone else pretends not to notice. Amara stands by the sink, rinsing a stack of cups, her shoulders tight like she's carrying something heavier than porcelain. He clears his throat. The sound feels too big for the room. Amara, he says. She turns slowly. Her eyes meet his for a second, then drop to the floor. Yes, sir. The word hits him harder than he expects. Sir. He swallows. His hands, the same hands that sign million-dollar deals without a thought, are shaking now. Where did you get that ring? He asks. The kitchen goes quiet again, like it did in the ballroom. The water keeps running. The cups keep dripping. Amara doesn't answer right away. Her fingers tighten around the edge of the sink. The ring glints in the light, like it's daring both of them to look at it. From someone who made a promise, she says at last. Her voice is steady, but there's something under it, something sharp, someone who forgot it. He feels the words land in his chest. He wants to say her name again. He wants to say his. He wants to say everything all at once. But he doesn't. He just stands there, a rich man in a room full of working hands, listening to a story he already knows and doesn't deserve to hear. She talks in short pieces, like the past comes back to her, in flashes, instead of straight line. A boy under a bus stop. A night that wouldn't stop raining. Half a piece of bread. A laugh that sounded like it could beat the world. A promise that felt too big to be real, but too kind to throw away. Her eyes stay on the sink as she speaks. Like if she looks up, she might see something she's not ready to see. He said he'd come back, she says. He said he'd be rich. He said he'd marry me. She lets out a small laugh that isn't really a laugh. I was a kid. I believed him. The billionaire closes his eyes for a moment. He sees the bench, the street, the way she smiled when he made that promise. He opens them again, and he sees her uniform, her tired hands, her ring. He never did, she says. So I kept this, just to remember that once. Someone saw me. Once I mattered. She finally looks up at him then, and there is no fear in her eyes. Just distance. Just a wall. You don't need to know more than that, she says. He nods, because he knows she's right. He turns to leave, because if he stays, he might fall apart right there between the sink and the stove. The kitchen noise starts up again behind him, like nothing happened, like something didn't just crack open in the middle of his perfect world. The rest of the day drags. Meetings blur together. Faces talk at him. Numbers float in front of his eyes. He signs papers without reading them. Every time he looks down at his own hands, he sees hers instead, red and wet and strong. Every time someone calls him by his title, he hears her call him sir. Night comes, and the mansion lights up like a city of its own. The halls glow. The rooms hum. Somewhere, a piano plays softly for guests who don't know they're standing in the shadow of a promise. He lies in his bed, staring at a ceiling that feels too high, too empty. Sleep doesn't come. He gets up and walks. Past rooms filled with art he bought because someone told him it was valuable. Past trophies with his name carved into metal. Past windows that look out over land he owns but never walks on. Everything he touches feels heavy, cold, like it belongs to someone else. He ends up in a quiet hallway where the staff rooms are. The light is dim here. The walls are plain. No paintings. No carpets. Just doors and silence. He stops outside one of them. He doesn't knock. He just stands there, listening to the sound of his own breathing. He thinks about the boy who wanted to be rich so no one could make him feel small. He thinks about the man he became, and the girl who learned how to be small, so the world would leave her alone. Back in his room, he sits on the edge of the bed and holds his head in his hands. Every deal he's ever closed feels like a brick in a wall he built between himself and that rainy night. Every plane he's flown in feels like a mile he put between himself and a promise he was too scared to keep. Somewhere down the hall, a door opens and closes softly. A pair of footsteps pass. Amara. Go to sleep? Maybe thinking about a boy who never came back. Maybe not thinking about him at all. The mansion settles into silence, but inside him, something won't stop moving. The past is awake. The promise is awake. The ring is awake, shining in the dark, waiting for a truth he hasn't found the courage to speak. And as he stares into the quiet, he realizes something that shakes him more than any boardroom ever has. He didn't just leave a girl in the rain all those years ago. He left the best part of himself there too. The grand hall fills with the soft echo of footsteps and the low hum of voices that don't yet know they are about to fall silent. Staff line the walls in neat rows, uniforms pressed, hands folded, eyes forward. At the far end of the room, banners for a charity event hang in perfect lines. Cameras perched on tripods like quiet witnesses, waiting for something worth remembering. Light pours through tall windows and paints the marble floor in gold. Power lives in this room. It always has. Until now. The billionaire stands at the center. His suit is sharp. His posture is tall. His name carries weight in every corner of the city. But today, something in him feels lighter and heavier at the same time. He scans a line of faces until he finds her. Amara, standing near the back, half hidden, like she's trying to become part of the wall. Amara, he calls. The word moves through the room like a ripple across still water. Heads turn. Whispers start and stop. She looks up, startled, her eyes wide for a second before she schools her face into calm. She steps forward, each footfall careful, like the floor might break if she moves too fast. Cameras begin to roll. He reaches up and unclips his watch. The metal band makes a soft click that sounds loud in the quiet hall. He places it on a table. Then his phone. Then the cufflinks from his sleeves. One by one, the small symbols of who he is, who the world thinks he is, are set aside. The staff watch confused. The guests lean in. The room leans in. My name isn't Mr. Kingsley, he says. His voice is steady, but it carries something raw, something exposed. It's Daniel, and I was the boy who slept on the bridge. The air leaves the room all at once. Gasps ripple through the crowd. A hand flies to a mouth. Someone whispers his name like they're checking if it's still true. The cameras zoom in, catching the tight line of his jaw, the way his shoulders rise and fall as he breathes. Amara freezes. Her hand goes to the ring without thinking. Her fingers curl around it like it's the only solid thing left in a world that just shifted. Her knees soften. For a moment, she looks like she might fall, but she doesn't. She stands there, staring at him, seeing two people at once. The boy in the rain, the man in front of her, the same eyes, the same scar above his brow, just like she remembered, just like it never left. The past slams into the present. The bus stop, the bench, the sound of rain on metal. His laugh when he made a promise too big for both of them. Her chest tightens, and her breath comes out shaky. Daniel, she whispers, the name tasting strange and familiar on her tongue. He steps closer, not like a billionaire walking toward a maid, like a boy walking back into a night he never should have left. I became everything I promised, he says. I became rich. I became powerful. I became someone people listen to. He stops in front of her. The room fades behind them, except the man I said I would be. He drops to one knee, not with a box, not with a ring, just with his head bowed and his hands open, empty. The cameras catch it. The staff stare. The guests don't know whether to clap or cry or turn away. I left you, he says. I left a promise in the rain and told myself the world made me do it. I told myself I had to become someone else to survive. But the truth is, I chose to forget. Tears slide down Amara's face. She doesn't wipe them away. She doesn't hide them. They fall and hit the marble floor, small dark spots in a room built to stay clean. I carried this ring, she says, her voice breaking, because it was the only proof I had that kindness was real, that I wasn't invisible, that someone once saw me and meant it. The room holds its breath. He looks up at her, his eyes wet, his face open in a way no one in this room has ever seen. I see you, he says. I should have always seen you. She takes a step forward, then another, and instead of letting him kneel, instead of letting the world turn this into a picture, a headline, a moment to be owned and shared, she reaches down and takes his hands. She pulls him to his feet. The cameras keep rolling, but the story changes. You don't fix the past with money, she whispers, close enough for only him to hear. You fix it with who you choose to be now. Her words hang between them like a bridge. He nods, the movement small but sure. He looks around the room. At the staff who have spent their lives being quiet. At the guests who have spent their lives being loud. At the cameras that have spent their lives deciding what matters. I spent my life building walls, he says, turning so everyone can hear. Walls of success, walls of power, walls of silence. And I told myself they kept me safe. He gestures to Amara. But they just kept me away from the people who mattered most. A murmur moves through the crowd. Some faces soften. Some harden. Some don't know what to do with a rich man standing in the middle of his own truth. Amara straightens her shoulders. She doesn't look small now. She doesn't look invisible. She looks like someone who has been carrying something heavy and finally set it down. I didn't come here to be part of a story, she says, her voice clear, carrying the back of the hall. I came here to work, to live, to be treated like I belong in this world, same as anyone else. She looks at the staff, at the guards, at the cooks and cleaners and drivers standing along the walls. We all did. The room is quiet in a different way now. Not tense, not shocked, listening. Daniel takes a breath. Then this doesn't end here, he says. Not with a moment, not with a camera, not with me on one knee. He picks up his watch from the table. He doesn't put on. He holds in his palm like he's seeing it for the first time. Then he sets it back down. I built my life on being the man in control, he says. But today, I'm choosing to be the man who listens. A guard shifts his weight. A cook wipes her hands on her apron. Someone in the back nods, slow and unsure, like they're testing the ground under their feet. Amara looks at him, really looks at him. The boy she met in the rain. The man he became. The person he's trying to be now. You can't rewrite the night you left, she says. But you can write every day after this. He meets her gaze. Then let me start today. The cameras catch the way they stand facing each other. Not above, not below. Just two people in a room that used to belong to only one of them. The guests don't clap. The staff don't move. The moment doesn't need noise. It needs space. Outside, somewhere beyond the tall windows, the sky shifts. Clouds move. Light changes. The world keeps going, unaware that something inside this grand hall is cracked open and let a different kind of power in. Amara turns to walk back to her place in line, but Daniel stops her, not with command, but with a question. Will you stay? He asks. She pauses, looks back. The ring glints on her finger. I never left, she says. And in that quiet answer, the balance of the room tilts. Not toward wealth, not toward authority, but toward something older and stronger. Respect. As the cameras keep rolling and the crowd slowly finds its voice again, one truth lingers in the air, heavy and bright all at once. The name that shattered a lie didn't just change who he was. It changed who everyone in that room had to become next. The sun rises over a street that still remembers their footsteps. It spills light across cracked sidewalks and faded walls painted with old colors and newer dreams. Children run past with laughter in their throats, chasing each other between parked cars and open doors. Someone grills food on a corner, and the smell drifts through the air, warm and real. This is not a place for limos or velvet ropes. This is a place where two hungry kids once sat on a bench and shared bread because it was all they had, and somehow it was enough. The chairs are simple. Folding metal. Plastic. Borrowed. The kind that wobble if you lean back too far. Flowers sit in jars instead of crystal vases. A speaker plays music that skips sometimes, but no one minds. People gather in clothes that mean something to them, not clothes that cost something. There are no cameras, no banners, no sponsors, just faces, just hands reaching out to greet each other. Just a quiet feeling that something honest is about to happen. Amara stands at the end of the street, the sunlight catching in her hair. She isn't wearing a gown that drags across the ground. She isn't wrapped in silk or diamonds. She wears a simple dress that moves when she walks, that lets her breathe, that lets her be herself. The old ring rests in her palm for a moment before she slides it back onto her finger. It's scratched, bent, small. It has been through rain and work and years of waiting. It fits like it always has. Daniel waits for her, not at the center of a grand hall, but on the same patch of pavement where a bus once stopped in the rain. He doesn't wear a suit that makes him look taller or stronger. He wears a plain shirt, sleeves rolled up, hands open at his sides. He looks like a man who learned how to stand without standing on someone else. When she walks toward him, the street goes quiet in the softest way. Not silent, just listening. A child stops running. A neighbor leans out of a window. Someone wipes their hands on their apron and watches with a smile. They don't try to hide. They stand face to face, and for a moment they don't speak. They don't need to. Their eyes say everything. The rain, the bench, the promise, the years, the distance, the return. I never thought it would look like this, Daniel says, his voice low. Amara smiles. I always hoped it would. There is no long speech, no grand vow, no crowd holding its breath for a perfect line. He tells her he sees her. She tells him she believes him. They promise each other days, not dreams. Work, not words. Showing up, not showing off. When he takes her hand, it isn't a moment meant for the world. It's a moment meant for them. The people around them clap and cheer and laugh. Someone whistles. A child throws petals from a paper bag. The music plays, skips, plays again. The street fills with sound and light, and something that feels like healing. Later, when the food is laid out on long tables and people sit wherever they find space, Daniel moves through the crowd with plates in his hands. He serves. He listens. He learns names. He hears stories that don't fit into headlines or boardrooms. He hears about jobs lost and kids raised in nights that were too long and mornings that came anyway. Amara watches him from across the street, not like someone watching a billionaire, like someone watching a man try and become who he said he would be. The foundation starts small, a building with paint that peels in places and windows that let in too much sun, a sign out front that says, "Open," even when the door is closed. Kids coming with backpacks and questions and hunger in their eyes. Some stay for food. Some stay for books. Some stay because it feels safe to sit somewhere and not be told to move. Daniel signs papers to sell one of his companies. The news calls it shocking. Risky. A move that doesn't make sense. The money flows into classrooms and kitchens and beds that don't belong to the street anymore. The building grows. Another one opens. Then another. But Daniel doesn't run it. Amara does. She stands in rooms with mayors and donors and people who talk about numbers and impact and reach. She listens. She speaks. She doesn't bow her head. She hires people who know what it means to work and still feel invisible. Maids, guards, cooks, drivers. She looks them in the eye and calls them leaders. This place runs because you do, she tells them. So you lead it. A guard teaches kids how to stand tall. A cook teaches them how to make soup that can feed more than one. A cleaner teaches them that every space is worth caring for, even if no one is watching. The world tells a story its own way. They call it a billionaire's redemption. They write about a rich man who gave away his money to feel better about his past. They talk about charity, about image, about change from the top. Amara reads the articles. She folds the paper. She sets it down. That's not what this is, she says. When someone asks her what it is, she answers without thinking. A promise finally kept. On a quiet afternoon, when the building hums with the sound of kids reading and laughing and arguing over games, Daniel sits on a bench outside. The same kind of bench. Metal, cold in the shade, warm in the sun. Amara sits next to him. They don't talk right away. They don't need to fill the space. He looks at her hand. The ring catches the light. Still scratched. Still simple. Still there. I could buy you a better one, he says, half a joke, half a question. She turns her hand, lets the ring shine. You already did, she says. With every day you show up. He nods. He understands. A kid runs past them, nearly tripping, laughing so hard they can't breathe. Another kid follows, yelling something about a game that only makes sense to them. The building behind them is alive, not with money, with people. Daniel leans back and looks up at the sky. I used to think being rich meant never having to look back, he says. Amara watches the kids. And now I think it means making sure no one else gets left behind. The sun moves. Shadows stretch. The day goes on. That night, they walked the neighborhood together. The same streets, different lights, doors open and close. People wave. Someone calls Amara's name from a window. Someone thanks Daniel for the place down the street where their son learned how to read. They stop at the old bus stop. The bench is still there. The paint is chipped. The sign is faded. Daniel runs his hand along the metal, feeling the cold, feeling the years. This is where it started, he says. Amara nods. This is where you came back. They sit down, side by side. No rain this time. Just quiet. Just the sound of the city breathing around them. The world doesn't end with a kiss or a song or a perfect shot for a screen. It keeps going. Kids wake up hungry. People go to work. Streets fill and empty. Promises are made and broken and sometimes kept. Amara rests her head on Daniel's shoulder. He closes his eyes for a moment, not to escape, just to feel the weight of being here. Somewhere, a door opens. Somewhere, a child laughs. Somewhere, someone who once felt invisible is seen. And the lesson doesn't come in big words or loud lines. It comes in the quiet truth of a scratched ring, a shared bench, and a life that chose to turn back instead of away. True wealth isn't what you rise above. It's who you reach back for when you finally stand tall.